What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another Bucks on Deck podcast episode. I'm Anthony Murphy. With me, as always, Nola Jeffy. Nola, what's going on, man?
Just another day in paradise.
Yeah, another day in paradise, and we have the first set of awards going out for Major League Baseball, and I guess maybe the one that shouldn't have been too much of a surprise ended up not being much of a surprise. And Paul Skenes is your 2024 NL Rookie of the Year winner. On there, beating out Jackson Merrill. Yeah.
Which I guess a quick shout out. I was say quick shout out. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it in the NS9 MVP chat, but Jim picked called out the voting like perfectly.
Did he? I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Skenes got 23 of the 30 first place votes. Jackson Merrill getting the other set. Jackson Merrill got all 7 of the other ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So looking back at that now, we kind of assumed obviously that this was going to happen. The 23 out of the 30. Was that more than you expected? Was that less than you expected for?
I mean, it sounds about right. I mean, especially with the, arguments you were seeing people make back and forth between who they preferred. And I mean, those types of arguments you could even take back to the draft last year where, people are just like hitter over pitcher type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot of the arguments were obviously about either like Skenes didn't pitch enough or just a matter of, Merrill was good, but it wasn't like an epic season, whereas Skenes put up numbers kind of like not seen before type of stuff. But I think for the most part, I got no issues with how it finished. I mean, obviously, Skenes won, should have won.
Yeah.
So
that's right. And, I see a lot of people talk about it. I think the only thing that annoys me is that it feels like a lot of people are kind of dismissing what Jackson Merrill did this year. Like Paul Skenes was like no doubt the Rookie of the Year kind of guy. And I think because I seen people like comparing it, saying like, Jackson Merrill pretty much had a Brian Reynolds Rookie Year kind of thing. And I guess the numbers are kind of similar, but like so much of this game is based around age as well. Like how many statistics do we have? Like, before he was, before your age 20 season or 23 and under and all this kind of stuff. Age plays like a huge factor in this. And I just think dismissing what Jackson Merrill did at his age, stepping into a position that he had never played before. I think a lot of people shortchanged how good of a year that was and how special of a year that was just by.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you adding that part, especially just, they kind of just like threw him in center field.
And he played really good center field too. He played really good defensively. I mean, that's not easy to do. It's just that like Paul Skenes just had historically one of the best like seasons like ever kind of thing for a rookie. So it's just bad timing. And like there's never a doubt in my mind that like it should go to Paul Skenes. I just was never a fan of like the dismissing of kind of what Jackson Merrill did this year. Because like he was kind of a guy that like once those 10 o'clock games hit and like I would sit down to write, like I'm flipping it to the Padres game and I'm watching, and when Merrill would come up to bat, I'd stop what I was doing and watch him hit, because like it was that special, that good what he was doing.
So, I mean, and even touching further on the whole like age thing, I know Corey would go on about it regularly, but the whole even just the year Jackson Chourio had, I mean, he started real slow and then, I mean, really got it together. And, for as young as he is, I mean, he had a stellar year.
Yeah.
He's going to be someone to worry about going forward, but that's another conversation for another day. But, it was a pretty, I mean, because even Shota Imanaga, like, it was a pretty stout rookie
and
group. And
you even think about it, like you think about it on the like the American League side as well. You feel like it feels like this rookie class, like for as good as it was, it could have been better because like Jackson Holiday didn't have the kind of season that I think everyone kind of expected him to have. So like I think people were talking about like if he got enough playing time, like he'd be the guy that could possibly run away with the AL Rookie of the Year, and then he just like never found his footing. So kind of really good rookie.
Yeah,
class.
And I think even was it Wyatt Langford? I mean, yeah, I mean even Wyatt Langford. I mean, he was another case that he started real slow, got it together. He was on fire for a while, but I think he kind of cooled off again. But
he missed some time with
it
an injury
been,
too.
I mean,
right?
personally, I believe so. Yeah,
It might not have been.
I was a little surprised.
Long, but...
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was a little surprised Gil won, but
yeah, me too. It kind of takes the thing. I don't think it doesn't take away from Skenes, but like the funny thing is, like so many people were talking about like how hard it is for a pitcher to win like the Rookie of the Year, and like Skenes obviously, but then like we go around and just both Rookie of the Years this year are pitchers. I think that's funny how that kind of worked out
right
in the end.
Yeah, I also think it's funny that nobody gets a PPI pick this year. Well, at least through the Rookie of the Year voting, no one gets one.
But Skenes won the Rookie of the Year. Don't you automatically get a pick for that?
Oh, yeah. They called him up a couple weeks too late. About a month too late, I think.
Feel bad. So
personally, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. I think like it took what like a start or two to kind of realize like Pirates may have they may end up regretting this calling him up at this point because
well even before calling him up, that was one of my arguments too, because at least in my head, especially when we were talking about the manipulation of service time and everything, the two scenarios that made sense were I'd have to look at the dates real quick here, but I'm going to say April 11th, but that's probably wrong. But the two dates that made sense were, the whatever date in April or the date in, let's see. I'm going to pull it up real quick. And then I'm going to talk about it. Sorry for a moment. I know I got it here. Let's see. Okay. So it was either they had to have called him up by April 11th to get 172 days, or they would have had to call him up August 16th or after so that he finished with 45 or less and would have been PPI eligible next year, 2025. Those were the two scenarios to me that I thought they were going to take. But I know I was also saying, it'd be kind of funny if, he was in the minors pitching to the point where it was like pitching to where it's like they have to promote him because he's just absolutely dominating, which he did pretty much. Gets promoted, and then it was like, well, maybe he'll have a little rough patch where they can go, oh, well, we have to send him down for just a little bit to work on things. That never happened. So, yeah, I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot in a sense. Now that he gets the full year of service time, which I guess that could lead into another slight topic that we were somewhat relatively discussing prior to this. Where personally, I feel like I'm getting on the train of I feel everything they've been doing over the last season, that I believe that they will try to do everything in their power to extend him.
Yeah. I don't think you like they know the dates. They know what's going on, and I kind of feel like if they're willing to let a whole, because like I feel like it wasn't that long. Like it was only a couple weeks after the like, and clearly the first time he pitched, like his first game in AAA, it's like okay, he doesn't really need to be here, kind of thing.
Right.
And for them to bring him up when they did, knowing that like, okay, well, this guy, if he gets enough innings, he's going to win Rookie of the Year because he's this good. Knowing that they're going to lose that full year of service time and yada 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 and everything like that, and like you can even like connect dots with like the whole card situation going on. I know you brought that up, like or you brought that up like in the group chat.
Yeah,
it feels like they're going to do. Yeah, I agree. It feels like there's either something in the works, not like close to being done, but like there is a plan in place for them to approach some sort of extension of some sort.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, there's the whole notion that they're cheap, but at the same sense, they're also very. With that in mind, they're extremely meticulous with dates,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that it wouldn't make sense that they would burn service time just to be like, oh, I guess we're gonna lose them a year earlier now. Plus, the other thing we were kind of discussing right before we started this that I personally didn't notice until September or August was that he never started on normal days rest all year, which was kind of interesting to me. Like, he never pitched on 4 days rest. It was at least 5 days every time in the majors.
Yeah. They did their due diligence and they're setting it up, and like there could be a point. I mean, maybe not his rookie year, but there could be a point to where like if they don't plan on keeping him and stuff like that, that you kind of just use him. You use the arm up and let him be someone else's issue after the fact. But they're taking care of him.
I mean, I guess devil's advocate would be that they're just trying to get as many of the bullets now to be air quotes, since we're audio competitive. Use as many of the bullets now to knowing that they're like, in 2 years we're going to get an absolute haul for him, which thinking about that sucks. But so as of right now, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic that they have full intentions to extend him early. And also part of me wants to believe that Skenes is the type of person that would love to stay. So he seems a one organization type guy.
They could have also taken like one look at the kind of money that they brought in after like a couple starts and be like, okay, we can make this work or something like that, just off the pure revenue that this guy can probably generate over the next couple of years, kind of thing.
I mean, that's probably why they're willing to offer that package they are for Skenes, because that's another thing. Why would they want that card in their possession to just get rid of him in 3 years?
Yeah.
Because then what purpose?
Would you want a reminder of this guy that you gave away multiple season tickets for, 30 years? And all this stuff and everything like that with the mindset, like, yeah, we're just going to trade him in 4 years, but we're going to hang on to this card. And put it, like, who's going to want to see that card at that point? No, it's not going to be some sort of attraction or something like that you put in a glass case at PNC for people to walk by.
Yeah, I know. And I know I saw somebody. I know I saw somebody else talking about like the worth. I've seen a couple of people talk about like the worth of that card, and I mean, it probably goes up, but especially over the long term, like 30 years, like the Pirates are giving up a lot of value for that card.
Yeah. So you want that in a glass case for people to walk by on their way to the seat to watch him pitch.
Yeah.
So Paul Skenes, Rookie of the Year. He's also up for Cy Young, and that will be announced on Wednesday. What do you feel like his shot is to actually win the Cy Young here? Do you think he actually has like a shot at this, or is it just, or is this where like the game's pitch kind of catches up to him?
Yeah, I think this is where, because I know, especially when it comes to like Cy Young, because Blake Snell is probably a perfect example of someone. Because the biggest thing knock on him was like he was like a 5-inning pitcher, but he was a 5-inning pitcher, and he had like, if I recall correctly, like he had like a ridiculous, like his ERA was far below what like his other metrics were, like FIP, I want to say. So when it comes to the Cy Young, I think they take availability a lot more into their selection, as well as ERA, wins, all of that. So I mean, it'll probably be close between Wheeler and Sale. I think they're gonna give it to Sale.
I feel like Sale's probably the favorite right now. I wrote about it over the weekend and all that. I think realistically, the only thing holding him back is that game, is the amount of innings and the amount of games he pitched. I mean, he had 23 starts this year in the majors, and 23 starts. Chris Sale won 18 games, so he won 5 less games than what Skenes pitched. So, I mean, it's not unheard of for a pitcher. With Skenes ended up with 11 wins this past year. It's not unheard of for a pitcher to win the Cy Young with, like 11, 12. Like, what is it? DeGrom won the Cy Young back-to-back in years, and he won like 12 and 13 games or something like that. I know Felix Hernandez won like a Cy Young, and he barely hit double digits one year. So it's not unheard of, but like also you'd probably have to look at like the competition, and like they still pitched more games. It was just they were playing for like bad teams that never gave him a lead and stuff like that. So,
which I also do find funny. With regards to Skenes not getting the PPI pick for NL Rookie of the Year, since he's top 3 for Cy Young voting. Let's see. Wait. I believe, he would have qualified. Now, you can only get 1 PPI pick per prospect, so he couldn't have netted them 2. But theoretically, similar to Bobby Witt this year, Bobby Witt is going to net the Royals a PPI pick because he's finished top 3 in voting for MVP. So I just think it's kind of ironic that Skenes, although not eligible, it's like they would have got 1 regardless in a sense.
Yeah. Take your pick. They would have got you a pick. So, a lot of, and like he may not win it this year, but like I mean, he was able to get enough votes to be a finalist off of 23 starts. So just imagine what he can do with 25 to 30, and like you mentioned it too, like building off the day's rest and everything like that. How many, like if they threw in like 1 or 2 instances, like a couple instances of him pitching on 4 days rest, think about like he starts to get like 25, 26, maybe even 27 starts or something like that. I feel like he might not have been that many starts away from actually legitimately being in the conversation for this. I mean, he's a finalist, so like he's obviously in the conversation, but the games played is less of a factor. It's not that long until games played is not a factor.
Yeah. And that's what, I guess, I don't think analysts, writers, whomever are going to be like, well, if you prorate his numbers over, another 30 innings. So we should just be happy regardless.
Oh, yeah. Like, I almost feel like it'll be a certainty that he'll get one. Like, nothing's certainty, but I feel pretty confident in his ability, if he's healthy, that he's going to win at least 1 here in the next couple of years. So,
well, yeah, when he signs his extension, it can put in incentives for Cy Youngs.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Look at this, talking almost 20 minutes on Paul Skenes. Did you have anything else on on Skenes, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, just Skenes in general?
Nothing in general. I was really hoping to get that
Who's
card the other day, but I didn't.
who appears to be the more boring conversationist, him or Ryan Reynolds?
Oh man, that's a. Have they ever done like a? We should just do like a discussion with Brian Reynolds and Paul Skenes. I mean, he didn't even like crack a smile after getting winner of the NOS Rookie of the Year, Paul Skenes, and then they panned them and like what did someone say? I saw someone. They were like, when your mom at Christmas when she gives you socks versus your reaction.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. But okay. Anyways, we're gonna shift on to the next topic. Arizona Fall League wrapped up over the weekend. The Scottsdale Scorpions won 7 in a row to make it to the play-in game, which they lost. Scottsdale, of course, has the Pirates prospects on there, and so their season's wrapped up. I'm not going to go like line by line and go everything like that, but I'm sure you're going to want to talk about Sammy Ciani a little bit. So I'll go and give you the floor here and talk about your overall takeaways and whatnot of Ciani.
I mean, overall takeaways. I'm happy. He did well. What happens from there? I guess we'll find out by the deadline tomorrow to add players to Rule 5. An argument could be made one way or the other with regards to that, but I was just happy to see that essentially what tweaks, mechanical changes he made that he spoke about with Jonathan Mayo appeared to really help benefit his game. He obviously finally got out of Greensboro. He continued to hit in Altoona. The defense was obviously, at least to me, the defense was never a question. He was always a great defender. You're probably going to get a little bit of the power that he was showing. But, I mean, a lot of that power was because he was just He-Man swinging a lot, but whiffing a lot. So I think it's all right to give up some of that because he's also extremely fast. So I was just very happy to see it continue with the Arizona Fall League against, I guess you could say, some better competition, some lower competition. It's a mixture, but as a whole, it was good to see.
I pretty much changed my entire outlook on Sammy Ciani as a prospect in general. Like, you know, we had our fun little back and forth between Ciani and Hudson Head, and obviously Ciani's the one who's more than likely has the actual shot at being a major league baseball player at this point. But I think at this point, the way I look at him, I don't look at him at the like results per se. It's more of, at this point, I see like the trajectory that he's on now. You know, kind of like overhaul and his swing. You talked about that article with Jonathan Mayo, and he's just heading in the right direction. And like, sure, he was like league average, like hitting wise basically in Altoona, but like you see the changes and you see the adjustments and the skill set that he has. You know, like you said, he's not going to be much of a power guy. He's going to be a contact, speed, defense. I mean, there's room for that on a major league team, and it's not like the outfield pitcher it's set in stone. There's quite you go through the 40-man roster right now. There's like, I'm not saying that I'm going to want to look at Sammy Ciani for an outfield position like opening day. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of outfielders on that 40-man roster currently that I have zero interest in kind of seeing going forward. Whereas Ciani, like, I'm very interested in what this year could be for him.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind, just real quick, the other thing I think to keep in mind too is, all things considered, I mean, he's still relatively young. I mean, moving up to Altoona, he was half a year younger than the average age. I mean, he's younger than G1 Bay, so
he's like I'm like not to spill over into the Rule 5 thing, because like you got like we had an article Monday morning with you, Ethan, and Wilbur going over what you guys were thinking about it. You're listening. This will release on Tuesday. I'll have my own article out where I kind of go on my own in-depth thing. I don't necessarily believe you have to protect, but like I very much think like the arrow is heading in like the right direction, and he's going to be one of the guys that I'm watching very closely going into next year, because I do think there's an opportunity for him with the right kind of performance to contribute to the major league team.
Yeah, and that's why I think, again, one of the biggest things for me is just the fact of how he essentially completely, like, in essence, like, changed his game in the span of the year. Like, he's not the same hitter he was a year ago. He became more of a contact-oriented hitter and made huge strides. It worked for him, and it continued all year into Altoona, into the Arizona Fall League. Granted, this is that stormy road we've been down so many times to where a guy kills it in Greensboro, goes to Altoona, sees some success, and we're like, hey, he might do it. Then their next year full tour of Altoona goes the opposite direction. So
this feels like a different type of prospect, though, as compared to some of those other guys with it. You know, like Matt Frazier. Like, I mean, Matt Frazier was like a second, third round pick, but like, was he ever a guy that we kind of felt like could kind of pull off the kind of run that he was going to have? Matt Gorski, he's like the tools. Like, we've been talking about him for years when it comes to like tools. Like, no one's tooled up like Matt Gorski, but it's the contact thing. Right. Even Chang coming up to
even through their breakouts, they remained the same player they were prior to breakout.
Yeah. He's adapted and adjusted to. I think it was like you're the one who like brought up like the comparison to someone like Sal Frelick over in Milwaukee, and I mean Sal Frelick's a really pretty good major leaguer right now, and like
I need to find who said that. I want to say it was Keith Law. I can't remember. I want to say it was during a podcast. Someone that is who mentioned that specifically. They were like, I don't know why they don't turn. Yeah.
Ever since you told me about ever since you mentioned that. Like, I can't help but kind of just see that there with it. Like, it fits.
Yeah.
It fits. I don't think he's going to – like, I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be as good as Salford. I'm just saying, like, you can see the similarities in their game now.
Right.
With it. So. But, yeah. Sam Messiani, probably, if we were to do, like, a player of interest or players to watch going into 2025, he's near the top of the list for me. I wouldn't say like breakout kind of thing, because he is. I mean maybe, but he's definitely got, and like it's not even. He did really well in the fall league, so like because like we know how that works. Like Chase Bowenhead, you could probably make an argument Chase Bowen had a better year last year in the fall league than Siani did. But it's the type of game that they have. It's the type of approach they have at the plate.
Yeah,
that's the difference with it.
Which is kind of funny looking at the numbers right now, because both Pichardo and Blanchard both walked more than they struck out in the fall league.
Blanchard was a weird case because like he played like once a week, and he still made like the Fall Stars game. And
it was the same.
He hit the
same
ball.
As Greensboro.
Yeah, exactly the same. Like he never played, and when he did play, but I mean, I will say like the defense, like John was able to find it, and he was like 1 for 21 throwing base runners out in the fall league.
Well, that's the other thing is, I mean, Scott was pretty loaded at catcher. I mean, the MVP was a catcher, so
yeah, he wasn't going to play much anyways. And I mean that's fine.
no.
It's not like he's a guy that we wanted to get like an added look at or something like that. We kind of knew
Right.
who Giovanni Planchard was at this point, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, he did have his for the playing time he did get. It was pretty solid.
Yeah. Pichardo had his, errors playing all over the field, which just completely random throw out. Looking at I didn't realize Jeff McNeil played 2 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, I didn't know that. There's another thing I learned is from Ethan that like time in the Arizona Fall League like goes like as part of like you have to like if you send them to the like Fall League, it counts as like rehab. Like you could only send them there for a certain amount of time. Like it would be a rehab assignment because it is technically a rehab assignment. Which
we talked about that when we had him on, because of the 2 Cincinnati Reds players.
Yeah. So this or I know he didn't finish it out.
Pitchers, you like pitchers?
I love pitchers, and he had like 1 or 2 kind of blow up games that kind of like, but like Christian Curtis, I thought Christian Curtis pitched really well down there. He had a couple like multi-inning outings to where he didn't give up any hits, or he had that one where he just blew through like 9 straight hitters or something like that. But yeah, he only pitched in low A this year, so like it was a big step up for him in competition. And like he's a guy that I talked about a lot going into the season, and the guy I talked about in the season. I had a chance to talk to him while I was in Bradenton. I just think he's a very like he's a little more well known now, especially Mayo wrote that article about him that was similar to someone else's article that had already written about it.
But, you mean a couple people?
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, Christian Curtis, I thought had a very good thing. Watching Derek Diamond pitch, I kind of intrigued about maybe if they were to shift him to the bullpen now, to maybe he would just be better that way. Maybe he could let things go a bit. But
say here's a fun number that I'm looking at right now. The average ERA was a 5.89.
Yeah. So that pretty much told me that looking at pitchers' numbers was pretty not a great thing to do.
Christian Curtis had a 4.67, so boom.
Yep. So he was a little bit above average. Yeah, he was better than average with that. Valentin Linares, 0.87 ERA.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that like 5 walk game he had, he like 5 of those walks came in one game.
Yeah. So, a very Linares game, I guess you could say.
It did kind of seem like his velocity was down from the little bit of the readings that we were able to get.
Yeah.
But like long season could have just been kind of wearing down kind of thing, I guess. He was a guy that I was kind of high on going into the season and kind of fell flat on that one.
Yeah, it felt like he was someone that would have really was going to really benefit from going to the bullpen, and it just kind of never clicked, and actually got demoted. So,
yeah, we got that one game of him in spring training with that data tracking, and was it like 7.5 feet of extension for him? We're like, whoa.
Yeah, it was like 7.5 feet extension on like a 96, 97 sinker, and I was like, okay, but
I see you out there.
Yeah,
it's got to throw strikes. I think we could probably wrap up all of the pitchers for the most part as saying, don't take the numbers at face value. There was a lot of hitting, a lot of good hitters, Arizona's, and there was a span, I think it was about like 2.5 weeks, where none of the pitchers allowed a run.
Yeah, it was like none of like the 24.
It was like around 24 innings. Yeah. Collectively. And for as offensive minded as that league is, that's a pretty good pretty
and I guess we can't walk away without bringing up Tamar Johnson, obviously, who left early due to the Premier 12 tournament, but he did well. He didn't crush it,
No,
but he did well.
So I think, and then that home, he only hit one home run, and I think that was on opening night, right? Or their first game. It was like the first or second game or something like that. But yeah, he drew a bunch of walks, just like we kind of expected. I'm almost willing to say that, like, if he doesn't have the best strike zone judgment in all of minor league baseball right now, there's probably only a couple more than him right now. And like him being 20, within a year or so, he might be the guy with that, because like he has issues with making contact inside the zone, but he you're not going to get him to chase. Like you just don't. His strike zone awareness is just out of this world. And like I always kind of wondered how it would be the more he stepped up in competition. Like maybe seeing better pitchers, he would walk less. No, not like he's facing another step in competition here, and still drawing walks, still not chasing. So he just has that one specific thing he needs to work on, and I really think that at that point he kind of just takes off.
Yeah, and it just might be kind of a case of comes with maturity of like if you get a sweet meatball pitch, then yeah, let it load it and let it go. But you know, the basic old adage is boring baseball quips of just hit it where it is.
Mm-hmm. And I do feel like we started to see that a lot more out of him when he got promoted to Altoona, like those last couple weeks that he was there. Like he would see a lot of stuff like on the outer half, and he'd just slap it the other way, He got a couple pitches on inside that he could turn on. There's that one game against whoever Toronto's AA team is. I think was it New Hampshire?
Yeah. I was about to say Buffalo, but no, Buffalo is AAA. The New Hampshire Fisher Cats.
Yeah. He turned on a ball there and like absolutely smoked it down the line. So the numbers may not have shown it, but I like the adjustments he made in AA, and it kind of carried into the fall league.
Yeah. Which even just got me thinking. He'll probably be an interesting case study for Matt Haig's hiring.
Yeah.
To see what happens, because his approach is, I guess, I mean, talk about hitting coaches, I guess, is kind of difficult. We see it in our comments all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of arguments over hitting coaches and approaches and all that stuff. But just from raw data, I guess, it seems that Tamar's patient approach fits kind of Matt Haig, but Matt Haig could hopefully help with the contact, whereas the Pirates' previous hitting philosophy was, more of like a swing as hard as you can type of philosophy, bat speed and power. Whereas, it seems like Toronto's was more of hit the ball, contact the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see. But did you have anything else on the fall league?
No.
I
mean, it was, if we're being honest, it was kind of a dry year overall.
It was like I watched a lot of the games. I watched most of the games, but it wasn't always easy to get through them. It feels like, because some of them, like with that, like 5.5 ERAs, the average ERA, like some of those innings just went forever. So they were tough watches at times. And like if it was a game where it was only Sammy Siani in the lineup, and you kind of had to wait to see if one of the Pirates come out of the bullpen, like I'd step away and clean up on the house a little bit, and I hear Siani's name, and I'd run back over to the TV kind of thing. So, yeah. For the final thing we wanted to talk about a little bit, Baseball America released their top 10 prospects for the Pirates going into 2025, as well as like they do the 2028 line, like the projected lineup a couple years down the road, which is always like wrong because it never factors in like free agents and stuff like that. But it's always fun to kind of look at where the system may be heading. And then the like the best tools and the suppliers, the tools and stuff like that. Same thing that we did on the site. That was obviously fun to look at because we could kind of compare what they come up with what we did. Starting with the lineup thing, was there anything that you kind of stood, or the lineup, I guess, lineup and rotation, anything that kind of stood out to you that maybe you weren't expecting, or is that just kind of?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was someone at least in the rotation. I was kind of.
So I'll run through it really quick.
Yeah. Run through it.
All right. So it's Endy at catcher, Henry Davis at first, Tamar at second, Brian Hayes at third, Connor Griffin at short, and then the outfield, Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, Nick York, and then they have the designated hitter as Nick Gonzalez. Then the rotation is Skenes, Jones, Chandler, Keller, Harrington, and as the closer, they have Braxton Ashcraft. So I think for me, the one that I think that was is probably just York in right field.
Yeah,
which makes sense because that's kind of the only spot for him. I guess if you want to say like quote unquote only spot for him. Doesn't surprise me. He's in the lineup somewhere. It's just that he's the one that kind of gets settled into right field.
Well, I guess Nick Gonzalez's designated hitter is kind of like, but
because he's been grading out like pretty positively, like defensively. Like anything, you probably just flip Tamar and Nick Gonzalez around because like feel that So
I guess the only other one that I guess I was kind of curveball was just that maybe Jared Jones would have been the closer.
Yeah, which
I believe. Or why didn't they do Kyle Nicholas the closer? That's messed up.
I believe they had Jared Jones as the closer, like on last year's, like when they did this last year. It would. I'm pretty sure when they did this last. So
sounds about right.
Yeah. So crazy the difference a year can make. You went from closer to the number 2 starter.
Right.
So
in front of Bubba.
Yeah.
And they forgot Roki.
No, I'm pretty sure they're just gonna have him on the Dodgers or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, not much for those. Like I said, like they obviously don't factor in free agents and stuff like that, and it's very rare that you have a lineup full of homegrown guys like that. But it's fun to see where the system's headed. The big thing for me that I wanted to that I went straight through were the best tool traits and stuff like that. And some of them are obvious, like best fastball obviously is going to be Bubba Chandler. Best athlete, obviously Bubba Chandler. Thomas Harrington, best control. They did say on, I think it was the podcast or a chat. No, it was in the chat that they've only given out like a handful of 70 grade control command. And like Harrington's one of the few to ever get that grade, 74.
Yeah.
So, which you watch him pitch how he pitched this year, like it makes sense. Like he hit his spots whenever he did.
Yeah.
And there's really all of these make sense. The only one that kind of like stood out to me was for best strike zone judgment. They had Chang there. And I kind of like, we just got done talking about Tamar Johnson and like his strike zone discipline. So it was kind of weird seeing that there.
Although, I mean, I could,
I won't
pull it up right now. I was just thinking, I mean, he did have a little more swing and miss than usual this year, so it could still be a case of that he was
Yeah.
swinging at the right pitches. He was just not hitting them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So,
But I was a little sad, Nick Samillo didn't get a shout out, but that would have made me feel good. But I do love that Richard Ramirez got a call out though.
Well, yeah, he threw out almost 50% of like base stealers in the complex. Like I think that single-handedly gets you the nod as the best defensive catcher in the system at that point.
He saved so many innings. So many innings.
Yeah, I think there's a game. I think there was one game on the stream that I was watching, and it was like 3 straight innings. He ended the inning either throwing out a base stealer or like picking off a runner at first, snap throwing it over to first. It was like 3 straight innings he did that. He ended the inning with that. It was just insane. Like watching him play catcher down there in the complex was just insane. So if he could just stop striking out.
I did pull it up. Yeah, I did pull it up while you were talking, and it does seem like that might have been kind of the case with Chang. He had like a 66.2% zone swing, but 77.8% zone contact, 26.7% whiff per TJ stats. So
okay. Best power.
Sammy Siani.
Sammy Siani.
Well, yeah,
best defensive outfielder. I'll say. You didn't pick him as the best defensive outfielder on our team, though. So I'm a little disappointed in you in that. I was the one who had to mention him.
I had to give hype to somebody else. Finally, I've been talking about Sammy Siani for so long now that I had to finally.
You just keep talking about it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, Jack Brannigan, best infield arm is a duh.
Yeah, that might have been more obvious than Bubba Chandler's fastball somehow.
Or Tony Blanco, best power hitter, who hits like 130 mile per hour balls. So
yeah. I can't wait till we get like full on data from him. That's gonna be so fun. But last thing we'll just kind of had the top 10 list. Was there anything like anyone's placement or anything like that kind of stood out to you?
No one that really stood out, I guess, per se. I know Monday morning, NS9, I guess, I want to say had an issue, but they weren't too fond of Wyatt Sanford at number 7. I like Sanford at 7.
I don't mind it.
But
I don't mind. I would switch Levi Sterling with Wyatt Sanford. I would switch those two. But I still like their placement over Meath and Barker. And that was the thing that I was going to bring up. I was going to mention them because I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it live, but I went back and listened to their episode with it, and they're talking about like how maybe they like Meath and Barco better than the other two. I will say and they kind of like said one of the points I was going to make too later on, to where Barco, he'll be 24 and what is it, like 3 innings or something like that he has in AA. He had like 1 start and then he got hurt in like the first or second inning of his second.
Yeah. Right.
And then Meath, we talked about Meath the other day in our group chat, and I think there's a lot of reliever risk there just because of the control, and I think some of the control has to do with the arm slot and like I looked it up. Historically speaking, that kind of arm slot isn't typical of what you see out of starters. It's more of relievers. Now, I don't think they would have drafted him as high as they did if they didn't think that they can make it work as a starter. But just going off of history, you don't see many guys with that kind of arm slot consistently throw strikes enough to.
Well, that's the thing with. Yeah, and I mean that's the biggest thing with Meath is it's a matter of if they can make it work, he could be disgusting.
Good, he can be. But I went through because I did Meath as the prospect of the day over on DK Monday morning. And so I went through and recorded a couple of starts. So I watched back through them. Just that arm slot, and then the horizontal break it creates on that fastball just like so many right-handed hitters, like just such weak contact, like because it just slams straight in on their hands and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, because
he's
how
not going to have
often do
any
you
issue
see?
in the lower levels.
Yeah, I mean, because how often do you see that arm slot coming with that heat from a starter? So
With that extension too. Like he's right at 7 foot of
mhm.
extension. So
Yeah,
it's
so
not often.
he right now he's kind of like the pitcher what's the word I'm looking for, example of like the Matt Gorski of pitchers.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. He has a chance to be like a unicorn type of pitcher, like but like the same thing that makes him so special can be his downfall too.
Yeah.
Is if that arm slot allows him, if he can throw strikes throwing from there, he's going to be a special kind of pitcher. Like he's going to be a really good pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't work, he's still a pretty good reliever then though, because like that arm slot still creates issues. It's just 1 or 2 innings at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the one thing I guess I kind of wanted to touch on with regards to Sanford is, I think part of his ranking has to do with the fact that he is a high floor just with the defense. He's a more than capable, above average defender at shortstop. He's got a little size to him. 6'1", 175, maybe puts on some good weight. Bless you. And I know one of the things they talked about in the scouting report was that, I mean, he was obviously contact over power right now, but he had added more bat speed over time, I think leading up to his senior year, or it just didn't really come through during the season. So hopefully with a full off season with the Pirates, maybe they tapped into that a little more and they'll get into that power a little more. So I think there's more upside there than a scouting report would generally read, I believe.
Yeah, I think people get the misconception, or they hear their minds automatically turn off or they turn away when they hear like the defense first or like the light hitting kind of like label on him. And like I feel like he's a better
we are
hitter
Pirates fans.
Yeah, I mean that's right. He's a better hitter than I think that kind of profile would dictate now. It's like you said, if he can grow a little bit and start impacting the ball a little bit more, you add that into the fact of like he's already like I saw some mock drafts like throughout the season with him like going in the first round. So like there are some people who thought that highly of him with it, and a lot of that is tied to like if you can get a kid at 18 that you feel like he's definitely going to play shortstop, like he's regardless he'll still move through the system and move up and still be pretty well thought of just because he's a surefire shortstop kind of thing. So.
Which leading up to the draft is one of the big things we talked about, particularly with this organization and their lack of, shortstop capable defenders and just defensively apt players in general. So,
and they got 2 of them in this draft, or potentially Connor Griffin and Wyatt.
Don't talk down Eddie Renders.
Okay, they got 3. They got 3 of them.
Chris Clegg loves him.
He watched the same I'm a big Eddie Renders guy too. I saw a couple video of him, and yeah, I'm excited. And he's a built kid too. Yeah, Kent State. Yeah, that's school you pick when you know.
State, but Kent State.
Yeah, you pick that kind of school when you know you're not going to school. Because all the teams know.
Technically, I went to school there.
I'm talking about like for baseball. I'm talking about like for baseball.
I know.
Like,
well, I didn't go for baseball. So.
It's all the good schools know you're not signing, so they didn't waste your time with you. And so, yeah, I don't think there's too many surprises there. I feel pretty good with most of what the list is. Me personally, I still would have had Burrows in my top 10, But like you asked the question
Yeah.
in the chat there about it, and I can understand it why they would, especially if feedback on him, on like Barco and Meath. So
it makes sense. I mean,
yeah,
it's not that they're down on Burrows, but
just
Burrows, who
other guys.
has at least per some of the stats, he's got me excited with that changeup because that thing was disgusting.
Yeah, the changeup's good.
Like
not as good as Darvin Garcia's apparently, but
yeah, and I mean, obviously, he was especially someone talked about with he needs to add a third pitch, and he shows back up with a third and fourth pitch, and I don't know if we'll call it the third or the fourth one ends up being the nastiest one.
Yeah. It was fastball curveball, and like for the longest time, it's like that curveball's nasty. Chance like the curveball is like the third or fourth best pitch that he has now, which is crazy to think about. I mean, probably make the case it's his fourth best pitch, especially if the fastball kind of ticks back to how it was pre Tommy John.
Yeah, well, that's what's kind of funny is all was ever talked about with Mike Burrows was his fastball, and honestly, as of right now, it might be technically his worst pitch right now.
Yeah. Which I will say, like, I remember seeing like Hunter Barco pitch at the end of the year in Bradenton, and that fastball, it was like averaging 90, wasn't much life to it. The approach wasn't great. The approach angle wasn't great. It was a meh pitch, and he came in the following year and
meh.
It's a very good. This is a very good fastball now. So give it more time, and we'll kind of see how it goes. So, but did you have anything else on Baseball America? Are you ready to?
I like where things are headed.
Yeah. Are you about ready to wrap it up here?
I'm ready to wrap it up. We're closing in on an hour.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So, any NOLA knowledge for us?
We always find a way every time.
I know. It's a good thing we didn't add that fourth thing in here.
NOLA knowledge. Don't get me talking because then I'll just keep talking about baseball, particularly.
Yeah.
In that way, I can honestly, when I watch that video of Skenes, again, air quotes, celebrating, I actually connected with him because I'm like, I get that. Like that, honestly, that's even kind of like my relationship. Like she's the outgoing, personable, exorbitant one. And I'm like, I'm much more of like introverted, especially if I don't know the people. I'm like, leave me alone. I just kind of want to sit here and my own thoughts. And so I'm like, I get it.
Yeah. I think it's different with me and Kim. Kim and I are both just introverts. Like we just want to be left alone, but like do it together. Like she'll sit there, read her book, and I'll sit there and watch baseball. It's like we don't talk much. We don't like going out. We don't like being around people really, unless it has something to do with like football or baseball. She's more of a football fan. I'm obviously a pretty big baseball fan, but yeah.
I'll go to more baseball games when I pull that Skenes debut patch card.
You'll be going to baseball games for the next 30 years.
Yeah. I'd say for free, but I'd have to fly there.
They should fly you there. They should cut it down to 20 years and use that 10 years that they save to fly you out every time you want to come out.
I think that would be my one thing I would probably also put in. I'd be like, I want airfare for every opening day.
That's fair. All right. Well, that's going to do it before we get on to an even longer tangent and we add another hour.
Just keep going.
Yeah. I love talking baseball. I can do this all day. I'm gonna be on another show. I'm a guest on another show here during the week too. So
you're now writing for a new outlet.
Yeah, I do nothing but my whole life is baseball. So
yeah. You are a sprouting plant.
Some would say it. I'd been sprouted.
Yeah, you got a bunch of new Leafs that just keep coming out.
Yeah. Basically. Where can they find you on the social media apps, which I guess has grown by one since the last time we've done a show?
Yeah, which I mean, Nola Jeffy, NOLAJEFFY. It's gonna be the same on both. It's just I guess on Blue Sky it's dot whatever comes after Nola Jeffy.
Mm-hmm.
So just type in Nola Jeffy, you'll find me, dude. I actually like it a lot over there right now. Like I open it up and my feed is just baseball.
Yeah. It's still new enough. Like I'm up to like 400 some followers, but everyone I'm following is only baseball. Yeah, only baseball. So like I open it up
Dude,
and
this is
there's literally
400.
nothing. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
Special.
it's just baseball.
Yeah, I love that. No random stuff, no anything. I love it. But for me, on Twitter at _Murphy88. On Blue Sky, it's just I think it's just Anthony Murphy. I guess I'm the first Anthony Murphy to get an account on there. So follow me on there. Bucks on Deck. Check out Bucks on Deck. Like I said, the day that this will post, I'm doing something on the Roll 5, like my own portion of it. I'll have a paid feature later this week breaking down some pitching metrics from Bradenton this year. I did one on hitting metrics the previous week. Going to do pitching now. DK Pittsburgh Sports. I'm doing Prospect of the Day over there, kind of doing some video highlights with some, quick brief write-up there. And for those who haven't seen it yet, I am the new Pirates correspondent on Baseball America. Had my first article posted on Monday, which ironically was on Mitch Jebb, which worked out perfectly for some people. But yeah, check that out as well. If you have a Baseball America subscription, if you don't, get one so you can read it. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time.
Deuces.